Chosen one. Stop everything and listen. Heaven has pressed pause on everything just to speak directly to you. This is not a glitch. This isn't random. This is divine interruption. Your scrolling stopped because the throne room released a summons with your name on it. You didn't stumble into this moment. You were pulled. Every angel assigned to your life has leaned in, because what is about to be spoken over you is not just encouragement, it is instruction. It is warning. It is activation. You are God's chosen one. And there's a reason he waited. 2 hours, 2 days, 2 decades. He waited because this was the hour your spirit would finally be ready. You have been sensing something. A stillness, a nudge, a growing ache in your spirit that things are not as they once were. The pull to quietness, the frustration with distractions, the sudden silence in your social circle, the shift in your desires. This is not anxiety. This is awakening. You are hearing heaven more clearly now because the noise has been divinely filtered. You've been in divine incubation. While others were running, you were restrained. While others were building, you were breaking, but not in vain. The Spirit of God hovered over you, even in your confusion. He waited, because he knew the gravity of the words he needed to speak. He waited because he honors free will, but now he is interrupting it, because time is short, and your role cannot go dormant anymore. Heaven is no longer whispering. Heaven is roaring, and you feel it in your bones. You're not who you used to be. You're seeing through people faster. You're noticing spiritual patterns, delays, attacks, and the atmosphere behind words. You don't fit in anymore, and that's your proof. God is calling his remnant out of the crowd, and you're one of them. You don't need another confirmation. You are the confirmation. Every word you're hearing is the echo of the mantle that's been hovering over your life, the one that's been trying to land for years. That heaviness isn't depression. That pressure isn't panic. That's the weight of calling. A holy disturbance is unfolding. The world calls it burnout, but heaven calls it birthing. Listen closely. Chosen one. There are words coming that your soul has waited decades to hear. This is your moment to reclaim what fear buried, what shame silenced, what trauma distorted. God didn't just bring you to this moment to encourage you. He brought you here to instruct you, anoint you, and send you, and he will not repeat himself. The next few moments require your full attention, because what you do with this will either ignite your assignment or delay it another season. That's why this moment feels weighty. That's why the algorithm paused. That's why this didn't skip like the others. Because this isn't a video, it's a visitation. Scripture says in Isaiah 43, when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. That's not poetic. That's prophetic. You are walking through fire right now. But the fire was never sent to consume you. It was sent to consecrate you. Your destiny has been knocking louder than your doubts. Your purpose is screaming through the pain. And if you're honest, you're tired of pretending you're normal. You were never meant to blend in. You were never built for silence. You were born to be a thunderclap in the middle of a sleeping generation. You are the interruption. Hell has tried everything to keep you distracted, because if you ever stood still long enough to hear this, you'd awaken. And now that you have, there is no turning back. The light has been switched on. The hour has come. And your name just got spoken in the throne room. If you feel this burning in your chest, that's not emotion, it's confirmation. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is awakening something eternal in you. God has waited patiently, but now He moves, and now He speaks, and He will not be ignored. Comment 777 if your spirit knows this was not a coincidence. Let it be your prophetic act of agreement. Let heaven know. You heard, you received, and you will not delay. Like, share, and subscribe if your spirit is stirring. You're not alone, and this is only the beginning. Chosen one, you've carried pain that others dismissed, silent battles, invisible wounds, and memories you wish you could forget but can't. That ache in your soul wasn't just trauma, it was transformation in disguise. You didn't just survive, you were sanctified through every sleepless night. Every betrayal didn't just break your heart, it branded your spirit. And heaven took note. You see, not everyone could survive what you did. That wasn't just hardship, it was holy fire. You've been marked by pain because you've been chosen for power. You've wept in secret while wearing a smile in public. But God saw every tear, and every time you thought He was silent, He was actually writing your story. You didn't get skipped. You got sculpted. You carry wounds that speak louder than words. But what if I told you those wounds are the reason heaven trusts you? Because God doesn't place His most dangerous assignments in the hands of the comfortable. He places them in the hands of the wounded, the rejected, the misjudged, the ones who lost it all and still kept their worship, the ones who had every reason to curse God and die but instead whispered, "Still, I believe." You are not weak because you hurt. You are dangerous because you survived. The anointing on your life was not cheap. It cost you your innocence, your circles, your comfort, and yes, sometimes even your sanity. But through it all, you never let go completely. Even when you let go of people, places, and plans, you clung to God in the dark. And that is why you're about to see the light. You've been fighting battles no one clapped for, carrying others while no one carried you, supporting, praying, lifting, and interceding, and still, people overlooked you. But the heavens didn't. God has kept record of every moment you chose integrity over popularity, truth over comfort, and holiness over hype. While they saw weakness, heaven saw worthiness. Pain has a way of revealing purpose. That's why your greatest wounds are pointing directly to your greatest calling. God allowed the rejection to reroute you. The heartbreak wasn't punishment, it was redirection. You were never meant to settle in places you begged to stay. Because where God is taking you requires everything to be pure. And so, He stripped what you thought you needed. Not because He was cruel, but because He was crafting something eternal. There were nights you wanted to give up. Don't deny it. Nights where you said, "God, if this is what being chosen feels like, I don't want it." But you didn't quit. You woke up anyway. That's what makes you chosen, not perfection. But endurance. Not flawlessness, but faithfulness. As Paul reminds us in 2 Corinthians 4, should see, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Heaven doesn't waste pain. It invests it, and your return is about to break through. You didn't just cry, those tears were seeds, and the harvest is justice. You didn't just suffer, you were trained in suffering. That's why demons tremble when you pray. That's why atmospheres shift when you worship. You carry something hell can't copy. Because the oil you carry came from crushing and hell can't imitate authenticity. People said you changed, and you have. Pain changed you, but not into bitterness, into brilliance. You see clearer. You discern faster. You don't tolerate nonsense. You don't chase what you used to. That's not trauma. That's transformation. And it was necessary, because what's ahead of you is too heavy to carry with a bleeding soul. So, God allowed the bleeding to stop before the blessing came. He allowed the emptying before the elevation, because you were never meant to carry residue into royalty. Chosen one, you have been qualified by pain, and that qualification is eternal. Heaven is not looking for celebrities. Heaven is looking for vessels, for yielded ones, for the broken ones who said, "Use me anyway." And you are that vessel. You are that one. Don't minimize your scars. They are your evidence. You walked through the valley, and you didn't die there. And when others couldn't see the torment, God was counting your tears like treasure. He watched when you smiled while silently screaming. He saw you pull yourself out of bed when grief pinned you down. He watched when you prayed for others while no one prayed for you. And now, He's coming for you, not in wrath, but in reward. This is not payback, it's placement. You've been assigned something that only pain could unlock. And now that it's unlocked, the heavens are ready to release what has been held up. You were never overlooked. You were reserved. So don't despise what hurt you. It carved out the capacity you now carry. That depth in you, that's not just personality, it's preparation. And it's about to become your platform. You are not here by chance. You are not hearing these words because they sound good. You're hearing them because God remembered you. Not just the public you, but the private you. The you that held on by a thread. The you that almost gave up. The you that still whispered worship after the worst days of your life. So, look back one last time, not in mourning, but in marvel. Marvel at the fact that you're still standing. Marvel at the fact that what should have killed you became the very soil that nourished you. Marvel at the God who let you bend but never break. And remember, your pain was not random. It was prophetic. You were chosen to carry it, so that others could be free. Chosen one. Have you ever wondered why the battle has been so intense? Why the pressure never seems to let up? Why your life, from childhood to now, has felt like a constant battlefield? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're cursed. It's because you were born for war. From the moment you took your first breath, hell panicked. You didn't come into the earth quietly. You came with a spiritual blueprint, encoded with power, purpose, and divine disruption. You were born with a target on your back, not because you're disposable, but because you're dangerous. The kind of dangerous that sets captives free, the kind of dangerous that makes hell tremble. The reason you've experienced so much warfare isn't because something's wrong with you. It's because everything about you is right. You were made for this. You were anointed for the war. And no matter how tired your hands feel, no matter how wounded your heart may be, you're still standing. That's proof of your divine design. You've survived what others collapsed under. You've walked through storms with no umbrella, climbed mountains without maps, and stood in rooms where your spirit didn't feel safe. But you kept going. That isn't human strength. That's holy fortitude. God has been building a warrior, not a worrier. Your tears were not weakness, they were training. Every loss taught you resilience. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every disappointment purified your dependence. And now, your weapons are sharp. Your armor is sealed, and your spirit is awake. This is why the enemy tried to steal your identity before you even knew who you were. He attacked your self-worth, your confidence, your relationships, because if you ever truly stepped into your full authority, every chain in your bloodline would snap. You aren't just fighting for you. You're fighting for those who don't even know they're bound yet. Hell recognized your purpose before you did. That's why it tried to make you question it. That's why voices told you, you're too much. You're not enough. You're not like them. That wasn't just human criticism. That was spiritual sabotage. The darkness could see your light forming, and it tried to dim it before it lit the room. But you kept burning, flickering. Yes, but never extinguished. And now, heaven is declaring, the warrior is ready, not perfect, not painless, but prepared. Prepared to move in realms others avoid. Prepared to speak truth, even when it costs you. Prepared to stand alone, if needed. Prepared to pray until things break in the spirit. You are not timid. You are not fragile. You are anointed for war. Scripture confirms it in Luke 10. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. That's not poetry, that's permission. Permission to step into places others fear. Permission to tear down strongholds. Not with volume, but with presence. The authority on your life is not shallow. It comes from fire-tested faith. And yet, this war isn't just external. The greatest battle has been within. The war between your flesh and your spirit. Between your calling and your comfort. Between your anointing and your appetite. You've felt that war, haven't you? The internal split, the desire to walk away from everything spiritual because of how exhausting it feels. But you didn't. You stayed. Even if you wandered in the wilderness. You didn't bow to the golden idols of the crowd. You've carried heaven's burden in a culture that trades calling for clout. And heaven saw it. You don't have to scream to shake realms. Your obedience alone shakes foundations. Your consistency terrifies hell. Because demons aren't afraid of gifted people, they're afraid of consecrated ones. And that's what you've become through every trial. Consecrated, set apart, different, dangerous. There is a remnant rising, and you are part of it. Not because you volunteered, but because you survived. The ones who survive the fire become the forgers of others. You will build what was denied to you. You will become what you never had. And you will set free those still bound in the chains you broke. So do not fear the next battle. Your past battles already trained you for it. You're not going in as a victim, you're going in as a victor. The enemy's last mistake was letting you survive. Comment below. I was born ready. Let the earth and hell know you're not afraid anymore. Chosen one. Listen closely. The enemy didn't attack you randomly. He targeted you early because he saw something in you that you hadn't even discovered yet. He recognized the light. He saw the mantle. He sensed the favor before you knew how to walk in it. And because of that, he tried to take you out before you could become it. Think back. Why did things happen to you so young? Why were you misunderstood even in your innocence? Why did you feel pain so deeply? Rejection so sharply? Because darkness always attacks what threatens its territory. You weren't cursed, you were called. And your calling sent a shockwave into the realm of hell that made demons move early. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were anointed. The enemy tried to ruin your sense of self before you ever had a chance to know who you were. He planted shame, where there should have been identity, confusion where there should have been clarity, chaos where there should have been calm. All of it was intentional, not by God, but by the adversary who knew your name, even before you believed you had a voice. There's a reason you fought anxiety, depression, and thoughts you couldn't even speak out loud. There's a reason you've walked through dark nights of the soul with no human support. Because the enemy hoped to suffocate the seed inside of you before it could take root. But you survived. And now, what he feared most is happening. You're awakening. You're starting to realize who you are. You're beginning to remember what God said about you before the trauma, before the manipulation, before the gaslighting and heartbreak and abandonment. You're reclaiming truth, and it's destroying the enemy's blueprint. You've always carried spiritual weight. That's why people projected their insecurities onto you. That's why you were a magnet for broken people, even when you were broken yourself. The oil you carry isn't ordinary. It attracts warfare, yes, but it also attracts assignments. You were never just someone's friend, child, co-worker, or sibling. You were their intercessor, their protector, their light in the dark, and most of them never knew it. But God did. God saw you praying when no one thanked you. He saw you walking away from compromise when no one noticed. He saw you keep your mouth shut when lies were spoken, because your integrity mattered more than your reputation. He saw you lose sleep, not over drama, but over destiny. You've been carrying burdens most people can't even recognize. Spiritual ones, generational ones, prophetic ones. And the enemy knew if you ever got free, you'd set others free. That's why he tried so hard to make you numb, to shut your mouth, to get you to question your worth and forfeit your assignment. But that didn't work, because God preserved your mind. God guarded your spirit. God hid you in plain sight. And now, the very one who was targeted is about to be elevated. As we read in Psalm 91, see, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You have been protected in ways you didn't even know to pray for. You were shielded from things you never saw coming. Why? Because your destiny had to be preserved, not just for your sake, but for the sake of the people attached to your life. You're not just chosen for you. You're chosen for them. The ones who'll find hope through your voice, healing through your survival, strength through your scars. They're waiting, and they don't need perfect. You've never claimed that. They need real. And that's exactly what you are. The enemy overplayed his hand. In trying to destroy you, he awakened you. In trying to shame you, he gave you a testimony. In trying to silence you, he gave you volume. And now, you're not just walking out of darkness, you're pulling others with you. This is why you've had dreams that scared you, visions that didn't make sense, encounters you couldn't explain. It wasn't imagination. It was preparation. God was showing you glimpses of your future, long before you felt ready for it. And even when you didn't understand, he kept speaking. He kept stirring. Because the call on your life is not optional, it's eternal. This is why you couldn't settle. Why nothing felt like enough. Why jobs, relationships, routines all felt like they were missing something. Because they were. They didn't carry your assignment. They didn't carry your mission. They didn't match the depth of what you carry. The restlessness you felt is divine. You weren't meant to be satisfied by normal. You were built for kingdom. You were crafted for impact. That stirring in your gut, that whisper in your spirit. That's heaven calling you back to the blueprint, the one written before time, the one that hell couldn't erase, the one that God still remembers, even when you forget. And now that you're remembering, you're becoming bold, becoming clear, becoming set apart. You are not returning to who you were. That version of you was attacked for a reason, but this version is ready for war. Chosen one, the time in hiding is ending. For too long, you felt like an afterthought passed over, misunderstood, unseen. But hear this clearly, you were never forgotten. You were hidden, and not by accident, not by rejection. You were hidden by design. Heaven covered you for a reason. God knew that if you were exposed too early, the weight of warfare would crush you. If your voice had risen before your character was tested, pride might have undone what purpose tried to build. So he covered you, shaped you, refined you in the unseen spaces. That silence wasn't absence, it was preparation. You felt like your gifts were ignored, your prayers unanswered, your dreams delayed. But now you understand. Delay is not denial when it's God who holds the clock. He hid you like he hid Moses, like he hid David, like he hid Esther. Not to discard you, but to unveil you in the fullness of time. You've watched others rise while you remained still, but you didn't envy them. Not because you weren't tempted, but because something inside you knew your timing was different. Your path was consecrated. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were marked to lead a remnant. And now the veil is lifting. The version of you emerging is not the one they laughed at, not the one they left. This version has been through too much to play small. You're not seeking revenge. You're stepping into relevance, not to impress, but to impact, not to show off, but to show up in power, in purpose, in divine alignment. Scripture tells us in Isaiah 60, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. This moment right now is your rising. The light you carry is not for decoration. It's for dominion. Darkness doesn't flee from those who merely talk about God. It flees from those who've walked with Him in secret. That's why you've been hidden. Because when God reveals you, it won't be with hype. It'll be with heaven's endorsement. You won't need applause. You'll walk in authority. You won't need validation. You'll carry evidence. The evidence of survival. The evidence of obedience. The evidence of scars that now shine like badges. You won't need to introduce yourself. The anointing on your life will speak louder than any bio ever could. And yes, some people will question it. Who do they think they are? Let them wonder. They weren't in the wilderness with you. They didn't cry your tears. They didn't wrestle with your calling in the middle of the night. But God saw it all. And now He's raising you in front of those who never knew how deep the pit really was. But this is not a season for pride. It's a season for posture, for alignment, for purpose on full display. You're not being revealed for performance. You're being released for impact. What flows through you is holy. It's heavy. It's sacred. Don't mishandle it. Chosen one. This is the season where everything begins to connect. Where divine appointments start finding you. Where what was once withheld is suddenly within reach. This is the time where you speak and things shift. Not because of you, but because of what's been poured into you through years of fire. And as you rise, remember this. Others need your light. There are souls assigned to your voice. There are chains that will break at your obedience. You are not being lifted to be liked. You are being launched to set others free. This moment isn't just about your personal healing, it's about generational unlocking. Because as you step into alignment, you're restoring what was lost in your bloodline. The curses are breaking. The cycles are shattering. Because someone you chose to say yes when others bowed to convenience. You've been faithful with little. And now, the much is coming. It may start slow, but it will build. Heaven is positioning people to find your voice, your work, your wisdom, not for your glory, but for His. The world needs voices like yours, grounded in truth, refined in secret, and dangerous to darkness. Let what's coming through you find wings. Let your voice be heard. Let your story reach someone on the edge, whether through a share, a whisper, or a divine scroll. Know that what you carry matters. If you've been waiting for a sign to release your sound, this is it. Support what God is doing through you. You're not just consuming, you're part of this. Your like, your share, your subscription. They're more than digital acts. They are prophetic echoes, saying, I agree. They are seeds into a divine movement that stretches beyond one voice, beyond one screen. They say to heaven, use me too. If you feel led to give, do it. Not out of pressure, but out of partnership. Because what's happening here isn't a moment, it's a mission. And you, chosen one, are part of it. The time in hiding is over. Let the world see what God has been forming in secret. Chosen one. Have you ever noticed how everything seemed to pause the moment things were about to break open for you? How the opportunities stalled. The doors froze. The relationships thinned out just when you thought the breakthrough was near. You've called it delay. You've called it bad luck. But heaven calls it divine defense. What you thought was denial was actually God's protection in disguise. He didn't allow certain things to happen, not because you weren't ready, but because they weren't safe. The rooms you were locked out of would have poisoned your gift. The people you lost would have choked your purpose. The deals that fell through would have buried your spirit under false expectations. So God stepped in. He blocked what looked like blessings, because He saw what you couldn't. He interrupted timelines. He slowed down rhythms. And while you cried over what didn't happen, angels stood guard saying, not this way, not this time. Every detour was deliberate. Every closed door was calculated. You haven't been rejected. You've been redirected. God was aligning you with something higher than approval. He was shielding your anointing from contamination, because your calling is too costly to be mishandled. And yes, it hurt. It hurt when they walked away. It hurt when the yes turned to silence. But would you rather have favor or familiarity, safety or divine assignment? Because what you lost in that moment was the very thing that would have slowed your ascension. Divine defense doesn't always feel like favor. Sometimes it feels like heartbreak. Sometimes it looks like being left out, passed by, disqualified. But in the spirit, it's preservation. God removed what couldn't handle the glory about to rest on your life. As Paul writes in Romans 8, Arshaba, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That means the loss was part of the plan. The silence was part of the song. The delay was part of the destiny. You've cried over what God was actually celebrating. You mourned the endings, not realizing heaven was rejoicing over your deliverance. And now, with the benefit of hindsight, you're beginning to see it. The fingerprints of God all over your detours. Look again. Every no was a protection. Every closed door was an act of mercy. Because if the enemy had gained access through those people, those platforms, those moments, you'd be in bondage right now. But God kept you, not just alive, but clean, unstained, ready. And now, the moment is arriving where everything hidden in you begins to unlock. This is why things felt like they were on pause. It wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Heaven was rearranging everything around you so that when the spotlight hits, your spirit won't shrink back. Your delay didn't cancel your assignment. It preserved it. And even now, angels are aligning divine appointments on your behalf. The right voices, the right doors, the right timing. And it's all happening because you didn't rush ahead of God. Even when you wanted to, even when you screamed into the silence, you waited. You stayed when you could have forced things. You obeyed when disobedience was easier. And heaven doesn't forget that kind of posture. That's the kind of heart God can trust with influence. That's the kind of soul He crowns with authority. You are not late. You are right on time. Not by man's calendar, but by the calendar of eternity. And what's about to unfold will make every moment of waiting feel like holy strategy. You'll look back and say, that delay saved me. That silence preserved me. That no was God's loudest yes. Unite. So trust this moment. Walk slowly if you must, but walk confidently. Because what's coming won't require striving, it will only require alignment. The wind of heaven is about to carry you into rooms no effort could have earned. And it all started with what didn't happen. Comment 333. If you now see the delay as divine, let heaven know. You understand. You agree. And you're ready for what's next. Chosen one. The hour is more serious than you realize. There are seasons in your life where grace gently nudges, and then there are moments like this, where heaven issues a final call. You've been wrestling. You've been delaying. You've been circling the same decisions, knowing deep down that compromise has overstayed its welcome. But God is now standing in front of you, and He is not whispering anymore. This is not about fear. It's about truth. And truth, when spoken in love, sometimes sounds like warning. There is a point when mercy waits, and then mercy steps back. A point when the voice of God grows quiet, not because He's abandoned you, but because you've stopped listening. You have felt that silence, the prayers that bounce back, the fire that's gone cold, the joy that feels distant. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly. A small compromise, a delayed obedience, a muted conviction. And now, you're standing in a space that looks like routine, but feels like rebellion. This isn't condemnation. This is conviction. Because your spirit knows what's right. You haven't fallen asleep. You've ignored the alarm. You've been nudged in dreams, tugged in worship, warned through others. Yet still, you waver. Why? Because rebellion rarely feels like rebellion. It often disguises itself as reason, caution, or taking your time. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. And spiritual hesitation eventually breeds spiritual blindness. You are standing at a crossroad now. One step toward obedience will unlock clarity. One more step toward rebellion may lock you in confusion. This isn't to frighten you, it's to awaken you. Because heaven knows how much time is left, and you don't. There is a moment when the door of grace begins to close. Not because God is cruel, but because his justice is as real as his mercy. And some of you, chosen ones, have been living as if there's unlimited time. There isn't. There is a divine urgency in this moment that must not be ignored. God has whispered, then spoken. Now he's shouting. And if you continue to treat his voice like background noise, you risk losing the ability to hear it altogether. Scripture says in Hebrews 10:26-27, if we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment. This is the word that many won't preach. But it must be said, you can't keep flirting with what you were called to flee. You can't keep excusing what you were anointed to destroy. You can't keep playing in the gray, hoping God won't notice. He sees it all. And he's not just interested in your gifts, he wants your obedience. The time has come to cut ties with what's weakening you. The cycle must end. The delay must stop. Because your next season depends on what you choose now. You can't afford to stay comfortable. You've already stayed too long. The Lord is not threatening you, he's rescuing you, pulling you from the edge before your heart turns cold, before your ears go deaf to the sound of heaven, before your light dims so subtly that you don't even realize it's gone. This is not just a warning, it's a door, and it's still open. That's the hope buried in the tension. Conviction is not God's anger. It's his invitation. If you feel that burning in your chest, that's not guilt. That's God calling you home. That's the Spirit pleading with you, saying, don't delay another day. There are assignments waiting for your yes. There are souls connected to your surrender. This isn't about behavior modification, it's about destiny activation. The enemy would love nothing more than for you to delay one more time, but heaven is saying, this is the moment. This is the hour. Every time you felt like something was off, every time you sensed that what used to fill you now feels empty, that was God showing you, this isn't your place anymore. The room you keep returning to has already been vacated by the Spirit. Stop trying to resurrect what God already buried. This is your line in the sand. You don't need another sign. You don't need another word. You need obedience. Not half. Not someday now. There's a cost to delay, but there's a reward in surrender. You are not too far gone. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten, but you are at a fork in the road. And the next step matters more than you know. Heaven is still waiting, but not forever. Chosen one, your obedience will not only change your life, it will rescue generations. You've been thinking too small. You've been seeing this calling as something personal, something limited to your own healing, your own breakthrough. But God never intended this assignment to stop with you. What you decide to obey now will ripple through time in ways you cannot yet see. You are standing at the mouth of generational transformation. Every step toward righteousness, every time you say yes to the Spirit, you're not just shaping your destiny, you're rewriting history. The bloodline you came from may be laced with pain, addiction, betrayal, cycles of silence and shame. But your yes becomes the line where all of that ends. You become the pivot point between bondage and freedom. And heaven is watching closely, because this isn't just about your survival. This is about divine interruption. You are the one that hell hoped wouldn't wake up. You are the one chosen to be the breaker of curses, the carrier of new legacies, the first in your lineage to walk fully with God. You think those dreams you've had were random, the dreams of healing others, building, leading, freeing. Restoring those were not imagination. They were inheritance. Glimpses into what obedience will unlock, not just for you, but for the ones you'll never meet. The ones who live different lives because you refuse to stay silent. Don't underestimate the power of one, yes, one surrender from you can heal a broken mother's heart. One commitment from you can save your future children from cycles you were born into. One step of obedience can become the bridge between God and someone still stuck in darkness. And here's what you must understand. Hell fears your obedience more than your warfare. It's not how loud you pray that terrifies the enemy. It's how consistently you obey. Because obedience builds altars that hell cannot touch. It sanctifies space. It draws heaven into the room. And you, chosen one, were born to walk in obedience that shifts atmospheres. Don't let the weight of the responsibility scare you. You were wired for this. God didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because you were available. Because even in your rebellion, something in you kept whispering, "There's more than this." And heaven heard it. Every delay you've experienced wasn't a punishment. It was God giving you time to realize what you carry. You were preserved because others are depending on you. Not to be perfect, but to be willing. And your willingness is about to break chains that have lived for generations. As we read in Exodus 20, Luke, "But showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments." This is the pattern of heaven. Blessing doesn't just stop with one act, it multiplies. It compounds. Your yes echoes into eternity. Chosen one, this is bigger than your emotions, bigger than your doubts. You were never meant to walk this out by feelings. You were meant to move by faith. Your feelings will fluctuate, but faith, once grounded in obedience, becomes the engine that pulls generations forward. There are children not yet born who will thank God for your surrender. There are marriages not yet formed that will flourish because you decided to break the curse of silence. There are ministries, missions, and movements that will rise from the ashes because you said yes when it cost you everything. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. What you need is clarity, and it's coming now. This is your assignment, to walk so closely with God that every step you take creates a path for others to follow. To love so deeply that broken people feel safe enough to heal. To live so consecrated that the residue of sin cannot cling to your name. That's who you are. And every time you doubt it, remember this. Obedience is the proof that you trust the one who called you. You won't always understand the assignment, but you can always trust the one who assigned it. You are not too young. You are not too late. You are not too wounded. You are chosen. And your yes is the seed of legacy. Do not wait for ideal conditions. Do not delay until you feel ready. Obedience doesn't wait for comfort, it births it. The more you say yes, the more heaven moves. And when heaven moves, nothing can stand in the way. You've been asking God to show you your purpose. Here it is. Say yes. Obey. Keep obeying. Let obedience become your lifestyle, not just your reaction. And watch how heaven multiplies every sacrifice into generational freedom. Chosen one. Your very presence shifts atmospheres. You may not always feel it. You may have learned to shrink back, to blend in, to silence your voice, to avoid conflict. But you were never meant to go unnoticed in the spirit. You carry light, and that light disrupts darkness, whether you try to or not. From the moment you walk into a room, something shifts. People can't quite explain it. Some are drawn to you. Others are repelled. But neither response is about you, it's about what you carry. Because when God deposits His presence in someone, the atmosphere must adjust to accommodate it. That's why you've always been too much for some people. Too deep, too intense, too sensitive. But none of those are flaws. They are indicators. Your sensitivity is discernment. Your depth is revelation. Your intensity is fire. You weren't made for shallow living. You were created to walk in kingdom dimensions. Your light isn't just poetic, it's prophetic. It exposes what's hidden. It reveals what's suppressed. It disrupts cycles that have gone undisturbed for years. That's why some people act differently around you. It's not personal. It's spiritual. They can't explain it, but their spirit feels it. You carry an authority that was forged in fire. You didn't get it from a title. You didn't earn it through popularity. It came through pain, through pressing, through crushing. And now, when you speak, things break, not because of volume, but because of presence. The authority on your life scares the enemy. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're aligned. Demons aren't terrified of noise, they're terrified of purity. And your purity is what gives your presence its power. You don't just shift energy. You carry the spirit of the living God. And where the spirit is, there is freedom. That's why you've never been able to just go along. Why compromise makes you sick. Why lies disturb your soul. Because you were designed to discern. You see beyond the surface. You sense the undercurrents. You hear the tones beneath the words. You feel the spiritual tension when others are numb to it. That's not coincidence. That's calling. God has made you a breaker of atmospheres, a breaker of cycles, a breaker of bondage. You've spent too long apologizing for that, shrinking your voice to make others comfortable, dimming your fire so you don't outshine their shadows. But no more. You were not anointed to be polite to principalities. You were anointed to confront them, not with arrogance, but with authority. Not in your name, but in the name of Jesus. Luke 4:36 declares, with authority and power, he gives orders to impure spirits, and they come out. That same spirit lives in you. The same authority, the same power. You don't have to force anything. Your very existence is confrontation. And yes, that makes life more intense. Yes, that means warfare comes fast and heavy, but you've been trained for it. Every hard season was a sword in your hand. Every betrayal was armor on your chest. Every loss sharpened your aim. You weren't made to play small. You were made to be a walking contradiction to darkness, a living interruption to demonic rhythm. You are the answer to prayers prayed generations before you were born. Your silence is no longer an option. Your light has a mandate. Your presence has a purpose. So walk into rooms knowing you carry heaven's thunder in your lungs. You carry deliverance in your whisper. You carry peace in your presence. And hell knows it. This is why the enemy tried so hard to make you insecure. To convince you you're too much. To trap you in cycles of fear and self-doubt. Because he knew, if you ever believed who you really are, he would lose territory. And now, it's too late. You're awake, and he knows it. Stop hiding your power behind politeness. Stop holding back the fire because others can't handle the heat. You weren't called to blend in. You were chosen to confront. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being rooted, firm, immovable, saturated in the Word, covered in prayer, and absolutely unshaken by human opinions. Chosen one. When you enter a place, The atmosphere shifts because you carry glory. Not hype. Glory. The same glory that caused demons to beg Jesus to leave their region now lives in you. Let that sink in. You carry what darkness cannot imitate. You walk in what witchcraft cannot replicate. You operate in what religion cannot manufacture. You are disruptive by design. Comment below. I carry glory. Let your agreement be known in the spirit realm. It's time to walk boldly in what you've always been marked for. Chosen one. You've been running. Not with your feet, but with your spirit. You've felt the weight of your calling, the sound of heaven's voice echoing in your soul. And still, you've delayed. You've hesitated. You've danced around destiny, hoping it would grow quiet. But it hasn't, because heaven won't let you go. You are not someone who can go unnoticed in the spirit. Your life is not your own. You are marked. The oil on your life demands a response. The dreams you've buried, the visions you've silenced, the callings you've postponed, they are still waiting. They have not expired. They are hovering above you, waiting for your surrender to open the door. Why do you feel tired when you're doing nothing? Why does your soul groan at night when everything seems fine? It's because your spirit knows the truth. You've been called for more. You've been mantled with authority, and every day you delay. A part of you aches, not from failure, but from friction between where you are and who you're supposed to be. You weren't meant to live safely in the shallow end. You were designed to swim in deep waters where faith is required, where comfort dies, where glory lives. The reason nothing satisfies you anymore is because your destiny is demanding movement, and it won't be silenced by distractions or routines. It will keep whispering, "Come up higher." The mantle on your life is not optional. It's not decorative. It's divine. It was stitched into your identity before you breathed your first breath. And yes, you can run, but you cannot unmark yourself. Jonah tried. Moses tried. Even Elijah tried. But when God places fire in your bones, ignoring it only leads to torment. Jeremiah 20:9 says, "But if I say, I will not mention his word or speak any more in his name, his word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot." You can't run forever, because the fire you're trying to contain was meant to consume you, not destroy you, but refine you, make you bold, make you effective, make you unstoppable. And here's what no one tells you: running is exhausting, but surrender is empowering. You've spent so much energy resisting the call that could have been used fulfilling it. You've been in survival mode when you were created to thrive in surrender. Your yes isn't a burden, it's a breakthrough. It's the moment when heaven pours its full weight into your life. It's when clarity comes, favor aligns, and strength returns. It's the reason things have felt out of sync, because your spirit was never built to run from fire. You were built to carry it. This is not a call for perfection. God never asked you to be flawless. He asked you to be available, and you still are. That's why you're here. That's why your spirit perked up the moment this message reached your ears. Because part of you knows this is the line in the sand. You're not too broken, not too late, not too disqualified. Heaven's not done with you. Heaven has just begun. But it can't unfold until you stop sprinting in circles. There is a straight path ahead, but it only unlocks at surrender. It's time to stop pretending you're waiting on confirmation. The confirmation is all around you. Your spirit aches when you disobey. You cry when worship songs hit too close. You feel chills when someone says what you already heard in secret. Those aren't signs of confusion. They are signs of calling, and it's okay to feel afraid. But fear isn't your leader. Obedience is. Obedience makes demons tremble. Obedience breaks stagnation. Obedience attracts provision. And obedience activates the angels who have been standing ready to assist your assignment. You're not just stepping into a task, you're stepping into a mantle, a weighty, powerful, prophetic mantle that heaven is ready to settle on your life. And once it falls, nothing will be the same. So take the first step. Say the first yes. You don't need the whole map. You just need to move. One act of obedience today will release the next instruction tomorrow. And soon, you'll look back and realize you were never behind. You were always being prepared. If this word pierced your soul, don't just nod in silence. Let your life echo back to heaven. I'm ready. And if these words have stirred something deep in you, don't let the moment pass. Like, share, subscribe, not for applause, but for alignment. Because voices like this are not entertainment, they are assignments. And by staying connected, you stay sharpened, you stay grounded. Support if you feel led. Sow where you're being fed. Your giving is not charity, it's prophetic partnership. It keeps the flow alive. Not just for you, but for those still waiting to hear what you just did. Don't miss the blessing of being part of a bigger mission. God is not finished with you. Chosen one. In fact, He's just getting started. But only you can decide how long the delay will last. Chosen one. You've been looking at the clock, wondering if too much time has passed. You've asked yourself, did I miss it? Did I take too long? Have we fallen too far behind? But heaven's answer is still the same. You are not too late. You see, God does not work within human schedules. His timing is not restrained by calendars or clocks. He's not watching the minutes slip by. He's watching your heart awaken. And He moves the moment your heart aligns. What you thought was delay, God has been using as development. There are things He needed to extract from your spirit, old mindsets, unhealthy attachments, false narratives that would have sabotaged your next level. So He waited, not in punishment, but in mercy. Not to punish your slowness, but to protect your purpose. You haven't missed your moment. It was reserved for you. You were never running against time. You were running toward transformation. And now that it's here, now that you're listening, now that the fog is lifting, God is ready to redeem the time. Yes, you've made mistakes. Yes, you've taken detours. But none of that can cancel the purpose still engraved on your life. God is not the God of second chances. He is the God of restored design. That means even if you've burned the blueprint, heaven still holds the original. Every detour has deepened your discernment. Every delay has increased your dependence. Every season of silence has strengthened your sensitivity. You're not starting over empty, you're starting over stronger. What if the time you thought you lost was actually sacred time? Time that taught you wisdom, depth, resilience, things you would have never learned in a rush. What if your delay has now become your distinct advantage? Ecclesiastes 3:11 reminds us, He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. That means the rhythm of heaven is already beating inside of you. Your hunger for more isn't a sign of failure. It's evidence that you've been marked by eternity. That hunger is holy. Don't silence it. Don't let shame use the past to convince you that your future is forfeited. You're not late, you're right on heaven's queue. God didn't just preserve the promise, He preserved you. You thought the silence meant forgotten, but it meant focusing. God's hand was over your timeline the whole time. Every closed door was a calculated delay. Every heartbreak was a holy redirection. Every unanswered prayer was wrapped in wisdom. You didn't yet have the eyes to understand. Now you're seeing, you're feeling again, believing again, hoping again. That's not weakness, that's resurrection. The dream didn't die, it went underground. But now the season of hiddenness is lifting, and what was buried is about to bloom. You're not starting late, you're starting fresh. Heaven isn't frustrated with your pace. Heaven rejoices in your return. Remember, the prodigal didn't come home to a scolding. He came home to a celebration. So walk boldly, not because of what you've done right, but because of what God has redeemed. Shame wants you stuck in cycles, but God is inviting you into alignment. This is not a moment to look back in regret. It's a moment to step forward in revelation. Because now you know, now you see. Now you feel the urgency. And with that revelation comes grace. Grace to run faster. Grace to build wisely. Grace to move in accelerated favor. What would have taken years before now unfolds in divine momentum. The pieces are aligning. The clarity is forming. And even though it doesn't all make sense yet, your spirit knows. This is your hour. This is your time. You were not passed over. You were positioned. God was never pacing in panic over your process. He was standing outside of time, already seeing how it would all align. And now, you're catching up to what He always knew. So stop punishing yourself. Stop rehearsing the old timelines. Start walking in the new authority that comes from knowing you're still chosen. The same God who called you then still calls you now. This isn't just recovery, it's resurrection. And resurrection power is never late. Chosen one. Pause and notice the timing. Why are you hearing this now? Why does this word hit differently in this season? In this hour, in this precise moment of your life, it's not coincidence. It's not algorithm. This is divine timing. Heaven orchestrated this moment like a symphony, flawless, deliberate, undeniable. Your spirit didn't stumble into this. It was summoned. You were summoned. Because the time has come. The clock of heaven just struck alignment, and everything is about to shift. This is not a motivational message. This is a spiritual marker. This is the point where something old in you dies and something holy rises. God has waited patiently, carefully, faithfully for you to arrive here. And now that you have, He's not just speaking, He's activating. Things that felt confusing yesterday are suddenly clicking. Delays that broke your heart now look like divine choreography. Pain you thought would consume you has become the evidence of your endurance. You're not looking at life with the same eyes anymore. You've been given prophetic perspective. Your story hasn't been random. Every chapter has been crafted by unseen hands. Every heartbreak, every closed door, every silent season has now brought you to this. Divine timing. The hour where revelation meets readiness. What you couldn't carry before, you can carry now. What used to scare you now excites you. What once felt like weight now feels like a mantle. Because your capacity has expanded, and that didn't happen by luck, it happened by fire. Divine timing doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It moves when heaven says, Now, and right now, the heavens are leaning in. Right now, the angels are aligning. Right now, your next level is opening not because you forced it, but because you're finally in sync. Don't second guess it. Don't shrink back. There's a reason you've been seeing repeating numbers, recurring visions, reappearing confirmations. God has been speaking in layers, drawing your attention to patterns that scream, "This is it. This is the chapter shift. This is where the tide turns. This is where you move." Daniel 2:21 declares, "He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning." You are now in that shift. Not just observing it, carrying it. The doors that were closed are opening on their own. The people you couldn't reach are now finding you. The favor that once seemed distant is falling like rain. And it's not because you're lucky. It's because heaven said, "Now." This is why the warfare increased recently. Why things got intense before they got clear. Because hell always attacks what heaven is about to release. And the closer you got to this moment, the more the pressure mounted. But now you know it wasn't just opposition. It was confirmation. Every spiritual attack was actually a GPS ping that you were nearing divine territory. And now that you've stepped into it, you'll see that God wastes nothing. Even your confusion was a setup for clarity. This is the hour when your voice returns, when your vision sharpens, when your confidence is no longer borrowed but inhabited. You are not guessing anymore. You're knowing. You're moving in alignment. And heaven backs what's aligned. You were never waiting on the world to make room. Heaven had a room reserved with your name on it. And now, the door is open. The favor is ready. The moment has come. So respond in the Spirit. Let heaven know you understand. Let the angels record your agreement. Type 444 below if you sense this moment is divinely aligned. This isn't coincidence, it's heaven's confirmation. Chosen one, what belongs to you has not been reassigned. The crown that bears your name is still waiting. The seat with your identity carved into it remains empty, unclaimed by any other. No matter how far you've drifted, no matter how long you've delayed, heaven has not revoked your inheritance. You may think you've forfeited it. You may believe that your past mistakes disqualified you. But God doesn't operate like men do. He doesn't retract his promises because of detours. He doesn't strip destiny because of delay. The crown is still reserved. There are people who tried to replicate what's been placed on your life. Others have even walked in borrowed mantles, mimicking your voice, echoing your insight. But heaven knows the difference. The anointing cannot be copied. The original is marked, and you are the original. You are not easily replaced, because the mantle crafted for you fits no one else. It carries the weight of your trials, the shape of your pain, the measure of your growth. It was forged in the fire of your specific assignment. No one can wear what was meant for you. Even when you tried to give it up, even when you rebelled, silenced yourself, compromised, it stayed. The weight lingered. The call never lifted. You couldn't shake it because heaven never let it go. It hovered, waiting, not demanding, but drawing, not condemning, but reminding. God doesn't discard the ones he chooses. He waits. And in that waiting, he watches for the return of hunger, watches for the flicker of repentance, watches for the surrender that always opens the floodgates. Romans 11:29 says, "For God's gifts and his call are irrevocable." That means What he placed on your life cannot be erased. Time can't void it. Failure can't delete it. Even your doubts can't cancel it. The enemy wants you to think it's too late, that someone else took your place. But that's a lie crafted to keep you from rising. The truth is, your place has been protected. While you were healing, while you were hiding, while you were trying to forget, heaven was guarding what is rightfully yours. You may not feel worthy, but worthiness was never the qualifier. Obedience is. God never asked you to earn it. He asked you to receive it. To trust that what he chose to place on your life was never about your perfection. It was always about his purpose. The crown isn't handed to the flawless. It's handed to the faithful, the ones who return, the ones who get back up, the ones who still dare to believe, even with trembling hands. And it will fit. Even now, even after everything, especially after everything. Because what you walked through prepared your posture. It taught you humility. It broke your pride. It exposed your true hunger. And now, you wear the crown, not with arrogance, but with awe. You'll pick up where others stopped. You'll go further than they predicted. Because this isn't about speed, it's about surrender. And you've finally come to the place where surrender is louder than shame. The world may never understand the weight of your process, but heaven does. And because of that, heaven still honors you, still trusts you, still waits for you. You haven't missed your moment. You are the moment. There's a generation waiting for you to rise, a mantle waiting to fall, a glory waiting to rest on someone who won't exploit it, won't dilute it, won't silence it. That someone is you. You are not just returning to purpose. You are returning to the throne room, to the place of authority heaven prepared for you before time began. The seat no one else could fill, the call no one else could complete, the assignment tailored to your wounds, your worship, your warfare. Chosen one. The crown is still there, and it still fits. Chosen one. You've taken hit after hit. You've been through storms that felt personal. You've endured losses that felt targeted. And if you're honest, there were moments you questioned, why me? Why does the pain seem so specific? Why the betrayal so sharp? Why the isolation so consuming? But what you didn't see then, what you're only now starting to glimpse, is that hell regrets ever coming for you. Because every strike it delivered only made you more dangerous. Every attack only revealed more of who you are. The enemy thought your suffering would break you, but it refined you. It forged weapons the devil never intended you to discover. The very thing sent to destroy you became the thing God used to sharpen you. That heartbreak, it taught you discernment. That rejection, it showed you who's truly for you. That depression, it drove you into the presence of God where your identity was redefined. You were not meant to live broken. You were meant to rise with battle-born authority. You didn't just survive, you learned how to stand in fire without burning. And now you walk with a weight hell can't mimic. You are a different breed. Not because you chose suffering, but because you allowed suffering to sanctify you. You didn't let pain corrupt you, you let it purify you. You didn't let betrayal turn you bitter, you let it make you bold. Psalm 66, 10-12, S.A.s. For you, God, tested us, you refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. But you brought us to a place of abundance. This is your journey. You were pressed, but not crushed. Struck down, but not destroyed. And now, The very enemy who once celebrated your pain is trembling at your resilience. Because now, you understand. What came against you didn't define you, it revealed you. Hell never expected you to rise from that pit. Never expected you to worship through that pain. Never expected you to intercede when you had nothing left. But you did. And now, you are the evidence that what was meant for evil truly does turn for good. You've been called to strike back, not in flesh, but in spirit, with truth, with purity, with the kind of obedience that rewrites atmospheres. You carry an unshakable joy because you've faced sorrow and refused to bow. You carry a peace that passes understanding because your mind was once at war and God rescued it. You know how to war in silence. You know how to praise in the dark. You know how to discern in chaos. These are not small things. These are spiritual weapons. They didn't come from books or teachings. They were birthed in battle. You are not a victim of spiritual attack. You are a vessel of spiritual authority. You don't just recognize warfare, you reverse it. You don't just notice oppression, you dismantle it. And because of that, your mere presence now carries impact. You don't need a microphone. You don't need a title. All you need is a moment, and the darkness flees. Not because of you, but because of what's on you. Because of what's in you. This is why hell regrets touching you. You were a silent threat before. But now you know who you are. Now you know what you carry. Now you've tasted God's power in the valley, and you've been entrusted with it on the mountain. You've been given access. You walk in realms where others collapse. You pray with weight. You speak with clarity. You release freedom, not because you're striving, but because your very existence is proof of God's keeping power. So walk boldly, not arrogantly but awakened. Let every scar remind you, the enemy lost. Let every memory of that valley remind you, I'm still here. And let every breath you breathe be a declaration. I won't waste what I survived. You were forged for this, molded in pressure, refined by fire. And now you rise not as a survivor, but as a standard, not as a wanderer, but as a weapon. Hell regrets messing with you, because now, you're not just awake, you're unstoppable. Chosen one. You've probably sensed it by now. This isn't just a message. This is a movement. You're not the only one waking up. You're not the only one being stirred. Across the world, others like you, marked, misfit, mantled, are rising. Quietly, boldly, powerfully. Heaven is activating an army, and you're part of it. You've been walking through your journey thinking you were alone, that no one understood the depth of your spiritual wrestle, that no one else was breaking free from the old and stepping into the weight of purpose. But look around. Listen closely. You'll feel it. The rising frequency of the remnant. God is gathering his chosen ones, not the polished, not the celebrated, but the prepared, the ones who have warred in silence, loved without reward, obeyed in obscurity, the ones who thought they were forgotten, only to realize they were being fortified. And now you've found this space, this voice, this word, not because you were searching for it, but because heaven drew you to it. This is a divine intersection, a collision between your past pain and your future power, and the confirmation you feel in your spirit is real. You're not crazy. You're not imagining the shift. It's not hype, it's holy. It's not just a video, it's a sound. A spiritual sound that resonates with your identity, that calls to the parts of you you thought were buried for good. but those parts are rising again. Purpose, vision, clarity, conviction. You've been praying, God, send confirmation. Here it is, not wrapped in flashy lights or viral trends, but cloaked in glory, piercing with truth, saturated with fire. And now that you've heard it, you can't unhear it. The Spirit is doing more than encouraging you. He's positioning you, because from this moment forward, everything changes. You've crossed an invisible threshold. You've stepped out of surviving into assigning, out of waiting into walking, out of wandering into warfare. Ephesians 4:1 reminds us, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. This is that urging. This is that charge. You are not being invited to blend in. You're being summoned to lead out. And while this journey is personal, it is not private. What's stirring in you is meant to awaken others. Your voice has weight. Your agreement has power. Your participation in this move is more than passive consumption, it's sacred partnership. That's why spaces like this matter, because this isn't a brand. It's not a performance. It's not a trend to catch and forget. This is a holy meeting place for the chosen to be equipped, aligned, and ignited. And if your spirit bears witness to that, stay connected. Like this word, if it's cutting through layers, share it with someone who needs their spirit stirred. Subscribe to keep the flow of truth alive in your atmosphere. And if this space has blessed you, if it's poured into your dry places, broken chains, or made you feel seen, consider sowing into it, not from obligation, but from honor. Because where you are fed, you flourish. And when you give into prophetic ground, you activate prophetic harvest. Every seed fuels the expansion of this message to reach more chosen ones who are still scrolling, still searching, still suffocating in silence. Let this be more than a moment. Let it be a movement. One you walk in daily. One you speak over others. One you commit to with heart, with hands, and when led, with support. Because God is raising something rare here, and you've just found your place in it. The remnant is rising. You are not alone. You've found your tribe, and we move forward. Not as scattered sparks, but as a collective blaze. Chosen one. You've walked through fire, and you need to understand what that means. Fire isn't just a trial. It's a test of what's eternal. It reveals what's real, what's rooted, what can't be burned away. And in your case, the fire didn't consume you, it confirmed you. So much has fallen away. Friendships, comforts, identities you used to wear like armor. You've watched them all turn to ash in the flame. And for a while, you thought you were being punished. But you weren't being punished. You were being purified. The fire didn't come to destroy you. It came to refine you. It came to burn away the unnecessary, the shallow, the unstable. Everything that could be shaken was, but what remained? That's who you truly are. That's what's sacred. That's what's ready to carry glory. You've emerged from seasons most people would have collapsed under. You've held on when the pressure was unbearable. You've smiled through tears, spoken peace in chaos, stood when standing made no sense. That's not normal strength. That's fire-forged faith. There's a reason you're still here, still breathing, still hearing these words. The fire revealed it. You are pure gold, and heaven is about to display you not for vanity, but for victory. You're not here to prove anything. You're here to shine with evidence. Malachi 3, 3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify and refine them like gold and silver." This is the process, and you've endured it. You've been tested, and now you carry a weight others can't replicate. The anointing on your life isn't shallow. It wasn't poured quickly or cheaply. It came drop by drop, through every breaking, through every moment you whispered, "Still, I trust you." Through every night you chose worship instead of anger. Through every step you took wounded, weary, but willing. The fire not only refined you, it redefined you. You're no longer who you were. You think differently, move differently, speak with more precision. You carry atmosphere now. You release heaven just by showing up. And you didn't gain that in safety. You gained it in the flame. And now, the world is about to see what the wilderness produced. The silence trained your ears. The isolation strengthened your resolve. The stripping taught you the simplicity of obedience. You no longer seek applause. You seek alignment. And that's why you're dangerous. You don't need attention. You carry assignment. The fire has removed your appetite for counterfeit approval. It killed your need to perform. It severed your ties to performance Christianity. And now, you burn not for clout, not for crowds, but for Christ. And that burn cannot be put out. You've become a fire carrier. People will feel it when you enter the room. Some will be drawn. Others will retreat. But none will be able to deny the difference, because your life now bears the scent of sanctification. You are the evidence that God still refines, still shapes, still sends. There's nothing average about you anymore. There never was, but now it shows. You've been sealed, not with fear, but with fire. You've come out like gold. And the shine is not for display, it's for deployment. And you will be deployed, not to impress, but to impact. Not to fill rooms, but to fill people. Not to speak louder, but to speak clearer. You've paid a price for this level. And now, heaven trusts you with what others only dream of. The fire tested your yes, and you didn't run. Now, you carry weight, authority, depth, and that, chosen one, cannot be taught. It must be endured. And you have endured, and now you arise. Chosen one, breathe this in. You have reached the edge, not of destruction, but of destiny. This isn't the end of a message, it's the turning point of your life. Everything that led you here, the fire, the silence, the waiting, the loss, has been converging into this divine threshold. And now, you stand in a moment that eternity has been waiting on. This is not about hype or hope alone. This is about holy reality. You've been carried here by something greater than willpower. You've been sustained by something deeper than discipline. You've been kept by mercy, by grace, by divine intention. And now that you're awake, now that your spirit is aligned, you can finally see the truth that was always in motion. You were never alone. You were never forgotten. You were never random. Every season had purpose. Every silence had weight. Every delay had meaning. God never left you. He led you. Through wilderness, through heartbreak, through all the things that didn't make sense at the time, but now, looking back, are unmistakably divine. You've been transformed. What once confused you now confirms you. What once crushed you has built you. You've stopped asking why and started understanding who you are, who God is in you, who you're becoming. Not despite the process, but because of it, you were never fragile. You were being forged, not into something ornamental, but into something eternal, a living weapon, a voice of clarity, a vessel of glory. And here's what's most important now. You must not turn back. This moment was not crafted for motivation, it was created for movement. You have been brought to the line. Now you must step over it. You cannot unknow what has been revealed. You cannot return to the smallness that once comforted you. You cannot unsee the mantle that has now rested upon your life. Hebrews 10:39 speaks to this moment. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. You are not of those who shrink back. You are not of those who delay. You are not of those who crumble under pressure. You are of fire-tested, heaven-forged, spirit-breathed, chosen one. And your assignment has only just begun. Do not chase feelings, chase faithfulness. Do not wait for applause, walk in alignment. Do not search for signs, be the signal. You are a living message now. Adivine hecho, a walking prophecy fulfilled in motion. You've been waiting for breakthrough, but God has been waiting for your agreement. Now that you've aligned, breakthrough is the byproduct. The fruit will follow the obedience. The doors will follow the direction. The clarity will follow the consecration. You will move forward, not because of force, but because of flow. You've learned how to trust the silence. Now you'll learn how to walk in the sound of assignment, the sound of release, the sound of heaven backing you with every step. Chosen one. The wilderness was never your end. It was your womb. And now, the contraction has passed, the push has come, and something new is being born from your life. You've been chosen. You've been crushed. You've been called. And now you are being commissioned. This is the hour of fullness. This is the moment of mantle. This is where everything changes. Chosen one. You've come all this way not by chance, not by trend, not by accident. You were led. Every word spoken over your soul in these sections was for you. And if your spirit is still burning, it's because God isn't finished. He's just begun. You've stepped into something eternal. This wasn't content, it was confirmation. This wasn't just insight, it was impartation. And now that you've received it, heaven is watching what you'll do with it. This is where movement matters, where alignment turns to action. If this word has ministered to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, send it to someone who needs their fire reignited, and let your voice echo back. Comment below what word pierced you deepest. Sometimes the breakthrough begins with bold agreement. Stay connected. Subscribe to stay grounded in what God is speaking. There's more coming, and you don't want to miss the next divine release. This is a space for the remnant, for the rising, for those who refuse to stay silent in a sleeping world. And if you've been blessed, if this message has stirred something too deep for words, consider sowing into this space. Support the mission. Partner with the movement. Not for me, but for what's being birthed through this voice, this vision, this flow. Every like, every share, every seed, every prayer, it all matters. And heaven sees it all. You're not alone. You're part of something holy. You are God's chosen one.